Sometimes being a professed Christian is kind of hard, because everyone likes to come right up to your face and tell you exactly why you're wrong. But also it's hard, especially in these times, to know where the Bible stands on certain social issues. Well, you no longer need to wonder. So, what does the Bible say about the heroes of faith? Again! I really like to talk about the people in the Bible who made a really big difference but aren't really well known. I also like to use these videos as kind of a reason to read some of the books of the Bible that I've never read before. So let's talk about Mordecai and what being faithful to God means for our lives. So to start out, we'll have some background information. In Esther 1, we see King Xerxes, who reigned from India to Ethiopia, decide to throw a 180-day party for all the nobles and officials. When that was over, he decided to throw a banquet for everyone who was in the fortress of Susa, which lasted 7 days. Queen Vashti was throwing a party at the same time for all the women. So the king sends for her because he wants to show off how hot she is to everyone else, but she decides not to come when he sends for her, which is bad thing, I guess. I don't know. He gets pissed and consults with the council about what to do next, so they come up with this brilliant idea of banishing Queen Vashti from King Xerxes' presence, and that the king needs to pick another bride. So Mordecai is first introduced in Esther 2, 5-7, but we're going to read verse 7, where it says, Mordecai was the legal guardian of his cousin Hadassah, that is, Esther, because she had no father or mother. The young woman had a beautiful figure and was extremely good-looking. When her father and mother died, Mordecai had adopted her as his own daughter. So, as the decree from the last chapter issued out, Esther was brought with a bunch of other women to the king's harem. And if you didn't know what a harem was, it's kind of like a separate room for women. Wives, women servants, just women in general. It's almost like the bathroom is today. Am I right, guys? Don't be mad. So by verse 17 of the same chapter, she was crowned the queen, but she had made sure to keep her family background and nationality a secret, as Mordecai had said to do in verse 10. And in the meantime, Mordecai was made a palace official. So in Esther 2, 21-22, the plot starts to kick in. During those days, while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the entrance, became infuriated and planned to assassinate King Xerxes. When Mordecai learned of the plot, he reported it to Queen Esther, and she told the king on Mordecai's behalf. Then, in Esther 3:5, we see it says, when Haman saw Mordecai was not bowing down or paying him homage, he was filled with rage. Now, Haman was another dude that Xerxes had given kind of a giant piece of land, and so he was a really high noble, and so everybody bowed to him, but not Mordecai. No, not Mordecai. See, Mordecai was really just following the rules set out in Exodus 25, or the third commandment, where it says, do not bow and worship to them, and do not serve them, for I, the Lord God, am a jealous God. So because this infuriates Haman, he goes and kind of discovers Mordecai's nationality, and being a really petty man, decides, instead of just killing Mordecai, I'll destroy all the Jews. So the king says, yeah, whatever, that's cool, and signed the decree that would kill all the Jews on March 7th of the next year. Or at least that's what March 7th is nowadays. Technically, it was the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, in the ancient Hebrew lunar calendar, but that's the same as March 7th, 473 BC. So at this point in the movie, yet to be made, dark clouds would be forming in as Haman's there drinking from his cup. Yes, I'm going to kill all the Jews. And you see all the people in front of him are getting ready. They're getting their weapons ready and all this stuff. And they're like, yes, in a year from now we're going to kill people. And at the same time, an ominous music starts playing. Dun, 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 dun. Bom, bom, bom. I'm having way too much fun. So in Esther 4:1, when Mordecai learned all that had occurred, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, went into the middle of the city, and cried loudly and bitterly. Two things that I wanted to point out. Tearing of the clothes is a sign of mourning, and we see that in 2 Samuel 1:11 and in Acts 14:14. And to put on a burlap and ashes, or a sackcloth and ashes, is apparently the same thing, also kind of represented mourning. So it's safe to say that Mordecai was mourning the possible loss of his entire people. But he got an idea. If he talked to Esther, maybe she could talk to the king and convince him to not kill, like, everyone. So in Esther 4:11a, Mordecai sends a message to her explaining the problem, and she responds with, "All the royal officials and the people of the royal provinces know that one law applies to every man or woman who approaches the king in the inner courtyard, and who has not been summoned. The death penalty, unless that king extends the golden scepter, allowing that person to live." So Mordecai's response in Esther 4:13-14 is, Mordecai told the messenger to reply to Esther, "Don't think that you will escape the fate of all the Jews because you are in the king's palace. If you keep silent this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place, but you and your father's family will be destroyed. Who knows, perhaps you have come to the royal position for such a time as this." I love this because it's kind of something that we all need to remember. If we keep quiet about situations that go against what we believe, well, we could possibly doom those people. And, well, honestly, worst comes to worst, we could doom ourselves. Now, Mordecai makes it clear that God will deliver them from this trial. In fact, he's not really worried so much about that at this point than he is the fact that if Esther doesn't act, her family and herself will be doomed. She agrees with him and decides to go to the king after making all the Jews, herself and her maids included, fast for 3 days. She even says in Esther 4:16b, "If I perish, I perish." And if that doesn't show a devotion to God and his chosen people, I don't know what will. So in Esther 5, well, she doesn't die, but it is greeted by the king. He asks her what she wants. She says that she wants a dinner with Haman and the king. He's like, yeah, sure. They eat dinner, and she asks for another dinner with Haman, and then she tells the king what this was all about. The king said that it was coolio, and Haman was super happy until he saw Mordecai, which made him all mad again. So when he vented in Esther 5:14, his wife Zeresh and all his friends told him, "Have them build a gallows 75 feet tall. Ask the king in the morning to hang Mordecai on it. Then go to the banquet with the king and enjoy yourself." The advice pleased Haman, so he had the gallows constructed, because, again, of course. So that night after Esther's first meal, King Xerxes, he couldn't sleep. Naturally he had his chronicles read to him, because, I mean, shoot, I would have my autobiography read, but to me, like, every night. Oh, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I'm awesome. And it just so happened that the account of Mordecai's stopping of the assassination was read, and the king discovered that nothing had been done to repay Mordecai for what he had done. So at that exact moment, Haman entered the palace in order to obtain the king's permission to hang Mordecai. Well, he never got the chance to ask, though, because the king ordered Haman to immediately take Mordecai through the streets of Susa to pay him homage, which was Haman's unwitting idea, and I love the irony there. It's so classic. The king's like, "Hey, what would you do if I wanted to honor you?" And he's like, "Oh, I do this, this, and this, and this." He's like, "Great, do that to Mordecai." So that must have been a slap in the face to Haman there. So in the 6th chapter, kind of ends with Haman's wife telling him that because Mordecai is a Jew, there's no way Haman could win, and which is yet another slap to the face. So at the next dinner, Esther kind of tells the king that Haman wants to kill her people, including herself, which makes the king stop and say, "Wait, but I like you." So he winds up using the 75-foot pole that Haman made to kill Mordecai to kill Haman. And if that isn't poetic justice, then I don't know what is. Seriously, I don't know if I used that right or not, so I don't know. I know it's irony, and I love that. And in the next chapter, Esther pleads with him to save the Jews, and in Esther 8:8, the king says, "Write in the king's name whatever pleases you concerning the Jews, and seal it with a royal signet ring. A document written in the king's name and sealed with a royal signet ring cannot be revoked." So Mordecai had the idea of allowing them to defend themselves on March 7th against anyone who attacked them with no penalties. Just like the Purge. So the Jews were able to unite and overpower their enemies in such a fashion that it actually converted people to Judaism. And to end the story of Mordecai, Esther 10:3 says, "Mordecai the Jew was second only to King Xerxes. He was famous among the Jews and highly esteemed by many of his relatives. He continued to pursue prosperity for his people and to seek for the well-being of all his descendants." So what are you supposed to get from that? Well, Mordecai's faithfulness allowed him to overcome the almost genocide of his people, and in doing so he managed to not only unite the Jews, but also wound up converting a bunch of people because they saw the evidence of God's working with these people. And we can do the same. So just remember Colossians 1:6. The gospel that has come to you, it is bearing fruit and growing all over the world, just as it has among you since the day you heard it and came to truly appreciate God's grace. So what was my act of random kindness? Well, being that high school is over and everybody's going into like college or the military or like living at home with their parents, that means that I have to say goodbye to some friends that have been around since 8th grade, if not even earlier than that. And it's really hard. And so one of my friends is going off into the Marines, and we all kind of had a small little party. You know, we took photos together, we went out and ate, and then we went and saw a movie. He wanted to see Captain Underpants for some reason. I don't know why, but I mean, it was fun because we were all there together, and it was a really nice thing to have happen right before he leaves. And it's really sad, but it's also something really nice, you know, a last memory that I can have with that person before they leave. So, if you found this episode intriguing and you want to go see more, go ahead and hit subscribe so you'll be immediately notified for when the next video comes out, or you can go over to my page and watch the other ones that are already up. And a couple months ago, I started a thing called the Action of the Week, where we as Christians go out and do some act of random kindness, which is a reference to Evan Almighty. I'll be doing it as you saw, and I hope you will too. Then you can comment on next week's video and tell me all about the good work that you've done. God bless, and may the Force be with you. Prince of Persia. 2 of the king's eunuchs. Crap. Okay. Punishing the children for the foggers. Getting ready to kill all the Jews, and he's like, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another palace.